Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to showcase how to develop a simple but yet effective travel request system, and this application will be a model-driven power up. So without further ado, let's dive in. Right, so firstly, our application needs to have somewhere where it has to store the data. So what you're seeing on the screen here, this is just the database schema that we have and that we're going to use. Don't worry about that. There's just two tables that are going to be utilized today, because all of these two tables will cover everything, because one travel request will have multiple line items. So I'll give an example to say Steve wants to go on vacation, and then he'll need travel, and then you also need accommodation as well. So those would be different line items with different costs associated to them as well. So the travel request itself, picture it as you have got the physical form that you have to fill in, and then you take in the same physical form to hand it over to your supervisor or whoever does the approval for them to sign. And then after that, it is handed over maybe to the finance personnel for them to issue out the funds and everything else that pertaining to finances. So the same concept, we're going to use it today, and it will just be a simple form that when I've filled in, I've added all my travel request line items pertaining to that request, and then I'll just have to send it over to my supervisor, and then my supervisor, after they've reviewed and they've done the approval, they can send it over to finance team for any other final amendments. So let's dive into actually building the application itself. So the first thing that we have to do is to actually create our tables. So in my solution, what I'll do is I'll go to new tables, set advanced properties, and then I'll give it a name. This one is the request table. So I'll just give it a name of travel request. And the primary column for this, I want it to be the request title. Okay. And I also want to enable the capabilities of the end users to attach documents. So maybe supporting documents, and those will be managed under a timeline as notes or files. So I'll check this box, save, and then our table is being created. Whilst we're at it, I'll also just create the other table. Remember, we'll have two tables in this solution, and this one is called travel line items. And the primary column for this one, I will just give it a name of line ID. And this one, I want it to be auto incremented, so it'll be optional. And then I'll save this. What I'll do now is to make it auto incrementing. What I'll do is I'll go to columns, and then line ID, I'll select the line ID. You see now it's a single line of text, but now we have to change the data type to auto increment, so that whenever people are adding in records, it is auto numbered. So I would have that done. It should be optional because no one is populating it. The system populated. I'll save this. So now let's go back to our travel request form. On the left hand side here, you can manage it from here. So I'll just click the drop down for travel request, and then I want to go to the forms, and I'll select the main form. From here, all the columns that we have are out of the box system created generated columns are on the left hand side here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use some of these as part and parcel of our form, because we had, remember on the entity diagram that I showcased earlier, we had a requester column. So it doesn't make sense for the requester to be typing in their name or having to search for their name, because with Power Apps, it will detect whoever is logged in at that particular moment in time. So that person will be labeled as created by. All we have to do is, because the system has already created a lookup to the users table, we don't have to actually do that. So what I'll do is that I'll just rename this much as it's a custom column, but I'll rename this. I'll give it a name of requester. All right. Requester, as you can see, it's looking up to the users table, as you can see here, and we don't have to add it as a custom, so we can just use that. We also had a column to say created on or date requested, so the system has already generated that for us as well. So what I'll do is I'll grab the requester column and then I'll just add it there. So let's go ahead and add more custom fields to our table. One of them is the requester, which we've already done. And the other one is the request title, which is already here. And we have got purpose of travel. So purpose of travel, I'll just come here and then add in purpose of travel. All right, this one, I'll just give it should just be multi-line text. You can add this as mandatory as well if your current scenario requires that to be mandatory. When I'm creating the tables, I prefer just to be seeing the custom columns on the left hand side to avoid the being cluttered and then having to check one by one where which actually is my column that I've just added. So to do that, what you do is on the filter at the top, you can just click it, select custom, and then you just be seeing items that you're creating. So we have got purpose of travel, we have got the start date. So I'll just add it there. And the start date shouldn't just be the date type, so it should be date only. And then we also want to have the end date. When are you expecting the trip to end? So I'll add it there, end date. This one again is also just a date only. Save that. And we also need to have the supervisor. Who is our supervisor? And the supervisor is someone that will be looking up from the users table. So I'll add in supervisor. The supervisor is a lookup column. This lookup column, we're looking up to the users table, which is this one. The supervisor column, it is the one that will be used when we are trying to send the item for recommendation or approval. So we're going to use that field. From that, we also need to have the supervisor, the estimated cost. So the total estimated cost, it will be a row up column that will be calculated from the line items. So we won't create it now until we have finalized creating the line items table. So for now, we have got the purpose of travel, which should come right under the request title. We have got the start date. We have got the end date. And you also need to select your supervisor. The owner column, I don't think we necessarily need it. I'll just bring it to the top here. Okay, I'll select it and then I'll just hide it because we don't really need to be seeing that column. So we also need to have the comments from our supervisor. So the comments will be approval status, supervisor approval status. Supervisor approval status should be a choice field, and this one we don't have to use a global one. We can just use it for just for this scenario. So I'll give it to say I approve, approved, rejected. Okay, I'll add those two columns, save that. And then I can also add supervisor comments. Supervisor comments can be multi-line text. I'll save that. And then we also need to allow our supervisor to sign. So to add this, I'll add it as a multi-line text, and then I increase the number of characters to 30,000. Okay, I'll save that as well. So let's clean up our form. We have got one tab that is here, but what I'll do is I'll select everything, and then I'll give it 2 columns, because I want to have the request information on the left hand side and then our approvals on the right hand side, so that everything is just on one window. All right, so from here what I'll do is I would like to add a component, and this component should be a button. Let's add a button, option set, and this option set should be associated with a supervisor approval status, so that the supervisor can just click a button to say I approve or I reject. After we've done that, we don't necessarily need to have, I would like to have the table labels at the very top. So what I'll do is I'll click here and then I'll click top. So the table columns will be labeled at the top. Okay, so we don't need to have the label. What I'll do is I'll just hide the label, so that it's just those 2 buttons. Okay, like so. The other thing is, remember we added a signature, but the signature is handled as multi-line text. So you add a column as multi-line text, but when you're adding it, for you to have the pen input, you go to components and then you select the pen input, just drag it over here and then associate it with your column, which in our scenario is the supervisor signature. All right, when we have it there, you see that we have got a window of the supervisor signature, as you can see here, which is a pen input. And you can also choose to hide the label if you need, but I'll just leave it there for now. The other thing that we need to add is the comments. So what I'll do is I'll just add the approval comments here. Let's just remove the supervisor. I can just leave it there. That's okay. Right? Save and publish. So what we've done is we've added the information, the few information in terms of the travel request. We've added the information about the destination, the purpose of travel. I forgot to actually add the destination. My bad. So I'll just add destination. This one should just be a single line text. Okay. So request title, destination, purpose of travel, and this, because it's multi-line text, we can allow it to be flexible so that we're reading everything there as well. You can also increase the row height, but I prefer just to leave it at 1 and let it expand automatically when someone is typing in that information. If you want to clean up to also have information, these labels at the top, you can also just come here, select the whole section, and then you can say, I want the labels to be at the top. So that's how it will be cleaned up. All right, wait for it to load, save and publish at the top. Now we have finalized on the request, travel request, but there's one thing that is remaining. We don't actually know the total amount that is going to be associated with this particular travel request, because the total amount is not something that we are typing in. The total amount is coming from the line items. So let's leave this table here for now. What I'll do is I'll just duplicate this tab, and then from here we'll go back so that we edit the travel request line items table. And from here, from our solution, I'll select the travel line items, and then I'll go to forms. From my forms, I'll select the main form, and it'll open up in the editor. From here, I don't want to see the custom column, so I only want to see custom columns, so I'll hide everything else. And the first thing that we need to add is, remember, this travel line item is associated with a parent, it has to be associated with a travel request. So the line item ID, remember this is auto incremented, it's just an ID. I'll just drag it to the top here because we users won't be adding in that as well. On the owner as well, I'll just bring it to the top because we don't necessarily need that. And then from here, I'll add a new column. This column will be travel request. So the travel request, it will be a lookup column that is looking up from travel request table that we've just created. This one, it should be mandatory, or I can just leave it there for the demonstration purposes, but whether you want it to be mandatory or not, but that association has to be there. To add columns to our section here, you can just select the section and then just click it on there, and then it will add it accordingly on your form. So we have got the travel request, we have got the expense type, all right. This can be a choice column. You can add to say whether this is an OPEX or CAPEX or whatever works for your scenario. So this is an operation expenditure or a capital expenditure. I'll save that. We also need to have a description of our line item. And this one should be a short but longer multi-line text. And we need to have a currency field called amount. The amount is a currency column. Okay, so I think for the travel request line items, we're done. All we have to do is to add our information here. So we have got the description. I can just add it to say, you can adjust to the vertical space, travel request, description, expense type, and amount. Okay, so now after we've done that, what I'll do is, because there will be a scenario where we need to create information as a dialog box. It should just pop up a form, a quick form. So let's also create a quick form for the line item so that each and every time that someone is adding some line items from a subgrid, they're not redirected to another screen. So let's make sure that we publish this main form first. And then after that is published, what I'll do is I'll go back, excuse me. And then from here, you see that if I say new form, the quick create form is not available, is blurred out. To activate this feature, what you do is you go to the actual form itself, and then you go to properties, and then you have to enable, I'll click on advanced properties, advanced options, and then you can say, I want to leverage quick create forms for this form. So save. Now, if we go back to our forms, and then we try to create a new form, you see that the quick create form is available now. This is just to streamline the user experience. Imagine someone has got 10 items that they want to add on the line items. You can't expect them to be clicking add and then they're directed to another screen. And then when they've add, they'll be directed to another screen. It's easier to manage when you're just on the same screen. So for here, I'll select the travel request at the top. I'll add it to the tab at the top. I'll give it the description, the expense type, the amount, and then I'll just give it a name, a title of line item details. And these are the sections. I don't necessarily need them, but I can't delete them. So what I'll do is I'll just hide them. So I'll select the section and then just click hide. Save and publish. So we have created our main form. We have also gone through the process of activating the quick forms and how to create the quick forms as well. So these two forms that I've created here, are the ones that we are going to add into our table, into not our table per se, but into our application. So we're done with the forms. Now let's just quickly add a quick view for our travel line items. The view is just how the data will be shown. So first of all, we'll have the line ID. I'll have the expense type, and then I'll have the description, and I'll have the amount. The data which it was created on, I don't necessarily need that information there. I'll save and publish. When that is done, remember we had duplicated a column and a tab. I'll go back to the duplicated tab, and because whatever changes that we're adding to the application, we haven't yet refreshed this. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly refresh this tab so that now the relationships that we've created can be propagated, and then we can add information to our main form. Wait for it to load. Excuse me. Right. So we have got our information here. Let me just give it a name of travel request details. And I will need to show this. And at the bottom here, we need to add the ability for someone to be able to add the line items. So what I'll do is I'll go to components and I'll select a column section like so. And this one, I'll just give it, say, line items. Just give it a label of line items, but I don't necessarily need to add the label. Whilst this is selected, I'll now add a subgrid. So a subgrid is when you have a parent table and you want to show child records that are related or associated with that parent, you add a subgrid. But first of all, in order for you to actually add the subgrids, you need to make sure that there's a one-to-many relationship between those two tables. So the parent will be able to see values from the related columns or items that are related to it from the child table. So let's select to say I just want to show related columns. And as you can see here, the travel request has actually popped up. Just click done. So from here, I'll give it a name, which is line items. Okay. So now we have got this information here. But now we want to be able to have a grand total. How can we calculate the grand total for the line items amounts that have been added onto the travel request form? For that, remember I had mentioned to say we're going to use a rollup column. So to add that, I'll go to columns, add new column. And here I'll just say total cost. This one is a currency field. It's not simple, it's a rollup column. First of all, we need to save this. When we've saved it, it will open up a dialog box. Right, when the column is saved, it will open up a dialog box where you have to configure the rollup configurations. So from here, I'll select that the linking entity is the travel request line item, and I want to sum up the total amount. So I don't want to add a filter. I just want to have an aggregation of, I just want to sum up all the amounts. So from here, I'll click save. After I've clicked save, I'll go save and close, and then it will save, and then it will also take us back to the previous window. And from here, what I'll do now is that I'll grab the total cost and then just add it there. Okay, save and publish. So now you saw how simple it was to create the tables, to create the relationships, and how to handle calculations. Much as they're just simple calculations, just a sum calculation, we've done that, but we don't have an application yet. We don't have a way of people actually accessing these forms. How can they actually do that, and then how can they enter the information? For that, we need to create a model-driven application. How we're going to do that is just making sure that I've published this. We will go back to the editor. So I'll go back, and then in our solution, let's go back to our solution, which is the travel request tutorial solution. From here, I've got the two tables. Much as I didn't add the users table, but remember their relationships. So with the solution, it will automatically add the required dependencies, all the assets that are the tables that you create, or whatever assets you're creating in that solution. It will add them automatically to the solution as well. So what we want to create now is an application. I'll go to the top here. I need to create an app. This is a model-driven app. Okay, this is travel request. You can be creative with the names, you can give it a description, but for the demonstration purposes, just give it as simple as possible. And after you've created the application, you need to add different information. The information is the forms that you've created, the views as well, and everything else. So what I'll do is I'll need to add a page. This is a Dataverse table. And what we need to add is the travel request and travel request items. I'll add this into the navigation. The navigation just says new group. I want to edit this and just give it a name of requests. Right, I think the travel request should be at the top. So let me just move it up. If you want to change the icons, what you can do is you select it, the view, and then you can go to the settings tab, and then you say, I just want to add a new icon, like for example this one. If you have icons on your desktop, you can also upload them here as well. All right. So one thing that I wanted us to update together is the view for the travel request, because as you can see here, it's just showing the title and the data which it was created on. So to quickly do that, what I'll do is I'll just click this, save and continue. So I don't want to have all these columns here. So what I want is the request title, the start date, the end date, and maybe let's say the total cost as well, and the data which it was created on. And let's filter these by showing us the order records, the new ones, so that the managers or the supervisors are focusing much on the earlier submitted transactions. So that is done. Let's go back to the previous window. Our application is here. You see that when it has loaded now, it will now have the updated view that we've just created here. So let's just give it a sec to load the preview. Whilst it's loading, I'll just make sure to publish it as well. So as you can see here, it has loaded up the view. Publish. Let's play it. There we go. We have got our travel request form. This is a view that will show you the records that are in the system. So for the end user's experience, all they have to do is to come here, click new. Here is the form that we created. Oh, I'm editing the line item, sorry. I'll go to the travel request, click new, travel request. So the destination should be Madagascar. The start date should be Monday of the 21st, and the end date should be the 31st. My supervisor, I can select them from here. And when you've selected the supervisor, you also have their email. So after that is done, then the Power Automate, we can configure to be sending requests to the supervisors. You see on the total cost, it's just 0 because the total cost will be calculated from the line items that we've added here. So to add line items, I'll click on the subgrid and then I'll say new line item. And this is the quick create form that we're creating to say we just want to be on the same screen and be able to add different line items. So trip to Madagascar. This is an OPEX. Amount is, I think it should be an air ticket. So air ticket is 3 million. So if you have got more line items, that's what I was emphasizing, that we create the quick create form. If you just have one line item, you can just save and close. It will save this and then it will direct you back to the previous window. But if you've got more line items, what you do is you click on the drop down next to the save and close button, and then you save and create new. As you can see, the air ticket has gone here, and it has given us another item, another fresh form. So I'll say accommodation. Okay, and I'll also say food. So we need food as well on our vacation, and the food will cost us 800,000. Is that 8 million? No, it should be 800,000. Right. So for now, let's just add those 3 line items. So as you can see here, we have got the air ticket with the total amount. We've got accommodation. We've got the food. Now, if I come to the top here and click recalculate, look at what is done. So it has just summed up all the items here to give us the total sum. So even the request as well, it has associated with my name because I'm the one who's actually using the application for now. So the moment I've saved this, because we've added here, you can customize it to say I need to add a Power Automate that sends an email to the supervisor automatically. I think just request in the comment section below if you want me to also dive deeper into Power Automate and these capabilities as well. But for the supervisor's experience, when they've come into the application, they can just say, oh, this has been approved. This is long overdue. And they can provide their signature, whether they're on their tablets or the smartphones or even on the touch screen as well. They can just save that as well. So as you can see here, what we've done is we've taken a manual process flow, a process flow that will require someone to have a physical copy of the form, fill it in, walk over to the manager's office, and then to have it approved and signed. But what Power Apps does is it gives you the capabilities of being able to digitize those processes as quickly as possible. As you can see here, it didn't take us long, but from start to finish, we've covered all the avenues. So the enhancements that you can do to this solution that I've showcased here is pertaining to whatever scenarios that you have. But the baseline to say, let's have digitization initiative. That is the capabilities of Power Apps. It has been Steve giving you this tutorial, and see you in the next one. Cheers.